What's up, guys? I hope everyone's doing well. I wanted to go ahead and talk about the labels that we end up keeping, that we have heard from other people, and we keep them in our lives, and they can be very damaging. So I'm going to use an illustration with sticky notes. I made five of each. One with what I have been told, or what has been told to me while growing up, and this could have been from friends, could have been from family members. Well, actually was from friends and family members. So I'm going to go ahead and start off right now. The ones that people have called me, people will always, or had said to me, people will always abandon you. This was actually a more of a belief system that I carried around. And that happened. That started to happen a lot during childhood. Even though I grew up with a family who did not know how to, who were, I guess, basically emotionally immature. So the emotions weren't really there. They were dealing with their own issues and whatnot. But that was one of them. You are ugly. Again, I heard that from, I believe it was from a friend at the time when I was younger, and it made an impact on me. I became very insecure because as I was growing up too, I had a lot of acne, as well as my pores were very big. So those were the things that people would notice, and I carried that along into more of my adulthood too as well. You are stupid. All right. You are stupid. I heard that from different family members, and that was just one of those things that really impacted me. I just never really felt good enough. In fact, I have another one too, so I might as well go ahead and put that on here with you are stupid, which is you are not smart enough. So for me, it kind of felt like almost like in the same category. And, I was basically told that by some family members, carried that around, and always felt like I had to prove myself to people. Not that I was ever in competition with people, but I always found that people were more in competition with me. I was always just trying to outdo what I did. Not that I ever felt that I needed to be better than anybody else, but there was this pressure to always be better than what I did. And that is where that came from. So hearing this at a very young age, ended up taking that on. The last one is you're a bad child. So I heard this when I was young. Of course, I would have many more, but I just wanted to use this as a small demonstration since the camera angle is just right here and you can see what I'm, talking about. So you are a bad child, which was interesting. I actually heard this, later on in my adult life when I had tried to work things out with my dad, and my dad did not want to take any responsibility for any of the things that he had done. My dad was a great provider, but that was about it. There was no going to him. There was no father-son relationship. Nothing like that. So when I went up to him one time, just like, why do you hate me so much? Just trying to wonder, why do you hate me so much? And it was just, well, you were a bad kid. If you weren't a bad kid, then then I would like you, which is very interesting, because growing up, I always felt like, man, no one really cares. No one cares about me. Nobody loves me. Nobody asks me about my day. Nobody knows that I fell down and I scraped the heck out of my knee, while I was riding my bike. And so, all of these things from childhood, really, that's where the most of the damage kind of comes from. It's from, I guess, trauma. That can be very hard to, to I don't want to just say get over, but to be able to manage, because we don't just get over these things. We have to replace these. This is a very, very limited belief system, a very damaging, and can become people's default even later on in their later ages in life. So what I mean by that is that when we go to default, if someone makes us feel anything like this, for one, people can't make, in a healthy mindset, people can't make us feel anything. But what happens is that we feel that those people are threatening us anytime that they make us feel any of this, right? Oh, you may not be called a bad child, but somebody may just say like, man, you're just a bad person. That is enough to trigger someone and to make them feel like that person who's telling them that they need to fight back, right? And this is where it can become very, very toxic. This is where, people who act on impulse will, could get violent, could just start breaking down, just break down. You can even get to a point to where that was just the last straw, and before you know it, they're having suicidal thoughts or suicidal attempts, or or even worse, they end up dying. All because of triggers that were, that people put labels on them. And unfortunately, when you're younger, when you're younger, you're supposed to feel loved. You're supposed to feel taken care of. And when you don't grow up with that, you are left to your own, trying to figure it out on your own. There's a lot of guesswork, a lot of trial and error. But if you're not the type of person to kind of like look inwardly and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? You're always going to end up playing the victim, so to speak. Don't get me wrong. There is a time to grieve all of this, but there is a time to let it go too as well. So that way we no longer have these things as our default. Like I said earlier, if somebody says any of these things, if we believe it, we're going to react. But if these things don't have that power anymore, which means I don't want this anymore. I don't want this label, because this is damaging. This is damaging. In actuality, what it really does is it really shows how those individuals really felt about themselves. That's the hard thing to recognize. But the reason why it can be difficult is because it comes from the people that we love. It comes from the people that we are like, those may be the first people that we see in our lives, and it's like, man, like you're supposed to be my hero, so to speak. You're supposed to be the person that takes care of me. You're the person that's supposed to love me. And so we go on through life, whether it's later on in teenager, we become rebellious. We try to say, this is not who I am, and we may go about it in a totally wrong way, or we go to where we feel accepted. Unfortunately, we may just go into the same people that make us feel just like this. So what I want to tell you today is that is not how God sees us. Not at all. So it's time to take off these labels that were placed on us. Take them off. You don't need this anymore. This is not who you are. And this is not who you were meant to be. Unfortunately, there are some horrible people out there that can make people feel really, really horrible. But those are not needed. This is not you. This is not me, right? So toss those. Now, when we come into God, which is amazing, and this is what really helped me get rid of those labels, because I could not do it on my own. I tried for a very, very long time. Went to therapy. Therapy helped for a little bit, but I still had a lot of anger that I was still carrying around, and really I was just focusing more on my triggers during that time. That if, okay, I feel this trigger, you know what, let me calm down, let me take a step. And those are all good things. But I'm going to tell you, I'm not against therapy. I think if you need to go to therapy, go to therapy. But also too, God works. We serve a God who can do miracles. Amen. Like, we serve a God that can do miracles. And he does not feel that way about us. This is so awesome. After all, like I said, after all the therapy that I went through, all the in-out programs and all of that stuff, there was always something missing. There was always something missing. So I'm glad, I'm so glad and grateful that God did not give up on me. And when I started reading the Bible and I really started getting serious, which there's a video that I made that you can kind of get a little bit of an idea of my background. I do have another video called kind of like spiritual warfare, because during that time I was in into the new age and all of that stuff. But that's another video that I'll probably put out a little later on. But we serve a God who is great and awesome God. And like I said, when I went through therapy and in-out programs and stuff like that, there was always something missing. I never had that. I was always yearning for love, for someone to love me, for someone to accept me for who I am, for someone to be there for me no matter how I was or how ugly I may have gotten, in a sense of, because I used to have a lot, angry. I'm just really angry guy, just a really angry dude, from a lot of my childhood stuff. And so when I started reading the scriptures and I started praying and really like these heartfelt praying, I'm talking about like tears coming down my eyes and just crying and, asking God to please help me. I didn't want to deal with depression anymore. And it all of this happened when I actually did overdose. When I woke up in the hospital is when I started praying. But it wasn't until later, after maybe like 6 months after that, that I started reading the Bible a little bit here and there. I was still going out, but then it got to a point to where I just I knew that I needed to change. I knew that I wanted a change, and so I decided to give it all to God. And when I started reading the scriptures and I started reading about Jesus and how and really how people were towards Jesus, and how they abandoned him, walked out on him, ridiculed him, probably called him every name of the book, I really related to that. And so I could really relate to that. And when I started reading more in the scriptures and what he thinks about us, I decided, like, that is so different and radical from how I grew up. How can that be possible? Well, we know that in John 3:16, it says that, so, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. So Jesus died for us. And that, it finally clicked, and I finally internalized it. And I was like, man, that's the greatest thing that you can do, is love someone, or die for them. And, to show your love. And of course, for the forgiveness of our sins and all of that stuff. It was just amazing to me, and it just really, really hit my heart. And so I was like, you know what? I hadn't met a person who could fulfill what I have been yearning, which was love. I've always had people, whether it was relationships, are not walking out on me, or me walking out on them. So self-sabotaging relationships, and it being done to me. And I got tired of that life. It was just like, there has to be a different way, and there was a way. And I'm here to tell you that it's through God. So as I started reading the Bible, I realized what he says about us, what God says about us. And it says that you are chosen. Awesome. I'm chosen. I'm chosen to do, God's good work. I'm chosen to be a part of His, a part of God. Like, that's amazing to me. You are redeemed and forgiven. I no longer have to carry the shame for the sins, or the mistakes that I had made. Going out and drinking, having one night stands, doing things that I should not be doing. I'm forgiven for all of that stuff. And, also knowing too that God knows my heart. He knows everything. So it's just like I said, every one of these has started to just really internalize. You are a child of the Most High God. The Most High God. Amazing, right? And I'm His child. I am learning that everything that I was yearning for was not in people, but what I needed was God in my life. You are unique and purposeful. I have purpose. There's a uniqueness, a unique quality that everyone has, and everyone here has a purpose. And everything that we do plays a very, whether it seems small or not, it plays a very big part and is significant in God's work and in our life. The one that always hit me and would, made me cry is that the very thing that I was always yearning for is that you're loved. I'm loved. To really deeply sit with this when I felt like I wasn't deserving of love, because of the life that I grew up, because of the people that I would constantly meet, or the people that I would constantly choose. We choose the love that we feel we deserve. There is no greater love than God's love. And nobody can outdo that. No one. So now I walk around with these labels on me. These labels. The labels that God gives me. Not what man gives me, not what a friend tells me, not what my parents tell me, because we fall short. We're broken, and we're gonna disappoint others. Even me, carrying these labels, because I'm human, I still risk hurting other people, but not in a sense where I can, it's at the point to where I could say, what, I'm sorry, I'm sorry that I hurt you, or I'm sorry I said what I said. I was just a little frustrated, or I heard the tone of your voice and it kind of, made me feel a certain way. And so that's just an ongoing process. And the more that we start to believe this, this becomes our default. And it's a work in progress, but this becomes our default. Somebody comes and tells me, you know what, you're dumb. No, I'm not. You know what? It's not going to affect me the way it's not going to affect me in the sense of the way that it used to affect me when I was carrying my labels. That's no longer my default. I will say that. That is no longer my default. My default is the counter. No. Anything anybody says less than what God says that I am, I don't accept it. I don't accept it. It's just it's basically gotten to that point where I'm not accepting it anymore, because I know that I'm a child of the Most High God, and I know what God tells me I am and who he believes me to be. That's what matters, not what other people think. I really hope, if you watched the whole video, thank you so much. I really hope that this helps you, and just know that the process, it's a day at a time. It doesn't happen. It may happen all at once for some people, but for most, it's a process. It's a process. So if you have labels that you've been, things that you've been telling yourself over your lifetime, and you feel like you want to change, turn to God. Go to therapy if you need to go to therapy, but also in that, turn to God. Read what he says about you. And it's real easy to do. All you have to do, if you don't want to, if you don't have the patience yet right now to open the Bible and search for what does God, say about his people or his children, then just type it online. It's real easy to do. It's so easy to do these days. But I really do hope that this helps someone. And thank you so much for watching. And hope everyone has a blessed day. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. I usually make these videos when I'm kind of like just inspired. I'll be outside walking and I'm just like, hey, you know what? Let me show this as an illustration or as an example. So, of course, the videos that I put up of scripture, those usually I put up every other day. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope everyone has a blessed day. Take care.